I just started getting into stand-up comedy. Like, I think it was like the year that I had just got Spotify, and like Netflix specials weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
But you had Spotify where there was all these American comedy albums.
Yes,
you know?
I love Spotify. It's such an underrated place for comedy.
Aye.
There's so many of like the Kyle Kinane ones. I know you love Kyle Kinane.
Yeah, yeah.
Kyle Kinane's got loads of them. Gary Gulman has got some incredible ones on there. And
Yeah.
it's just like people just don't think to listen to stand up.
Yeah.
But you get some of the best albums on there.
Yeah, yeah. I remember in that like first year, as you say, like Kinane's first album had come out, and loved that. He's somebody that I can listen to time and time again because there's, I mean, his voice.
Yeah, his
like,
voice is such an unusual voice, isn't it?
Yeah, there's almost like a sort of musicality to it, like the way he says some things. But like, it was like Patton Oswalt and Maria Bamford as well, like going back and finding all their albums. And I think like then that year or like the following year, I was like, right, I want to know more about this world. And so
Yeah.
like I'd like booked like 2 nights in a bed and breakfast like just outside of Edinburgh, and I was like, I'm gonna go by myself and just go see a bunch of fringe shows because you could afford to do that back then. Like you can't afford to do that anymore.
No way, man.
Yeah, but like the very first one, just getting in by myself, it was Eddie Pepitone in the
Oh.
Tron, and it was
In the Tron.
yeah.
In that same room that like C&B and that were doing this year.
Yeah.
Fuck.
and yeah, because I'd seen him. I think he came back either the following year or the year after that, and they'd popped him in the Pleasance, and it was still good, but the vibe was very different. You know,
He's not a Pleasance man.
No. You need him in a basement, and it was packed. It was like Friday night, and it was just electric. And you're like, this is a world I want to live in.
And then that was, so Eddie Pepitone was the one that's like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Like, like we're nothing alike. It's
Yeah, I was gonna
like-
say, he's so unique. He's such a brash style that you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's doing that bit that night. Like, do you know the bit he's auditioning for the detergent advert? And you're
No.
like, how did you get them so white? There's a war on.
Yeah, he's a wild man. Oh, that's cool, man. That's the thing that kind of got you into it.
I think so. Yeah.
Brilliant. And then it's first gigs in at in air.
Yeah. And
Do you
like,
remember how you were feeling before your first gig? Because I always try and like ask people. We always remember how we feel after it. But I was like, what were you like before? Were you like cool? Were you nervous?
oh, I was really nervous, and it was
Yeah.
the kind of thing like you spend all day thinking about how it's going to go, and you feel like you need to know it off by heart, and but yeah, and it was mostly to a room of like, you know, friends of yours and stuff like that, so it was fine. So yeah, it feels like the first proper gig was then after that doing a Red Raw, where there are still friends who have come, but you are now you're in
They're in
like,
the minority. Of the
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
Yeah. Man.
and it's a far more objective crowd, you know.
Yeah, friendly, but also they will tell you if you're shit. And
Aye.
they told me I was shit. They were no uncertain terms like, this is not enjoyable. And fair play to them. I respect them for doing it.
Is that like where your first one
Yeah,
was?
it was Edinburgh.
Right,
Edinburgh
right.
stand. It was just, and again, I'd spent all day working out the timings. I literally stopwatch going over and over and over the timings. It's someone that so a lot of people don't think about that is trying to hit that 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And just going, right, this will work. And then you say it in your bedroom and it's like, that's 5 minutes. And then you get up on stage and you have a minute of forgetting what you've got to say. You've got a minute like spaced out 5-10 seconds here and there. And it is awful to just then just like, you're just clambering around in your head like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And then you don't even see the flash. The flash basically tells you how long you've got to go and to get the fuck off the stage.
Yeah.
And you always hear about people getting played off.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever seen anyone getting played off?
Oh yeah.
That is heartbreaking
Aye.
to see that.
Aye.
When they've overrun by like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. And it's like it has to happen because like the night's so packed,
Yeah.
but yeah, it never stops being painful.
And you know, as a comedian now, if you see someone overrunning and you can see the flash hitting their face, the audience doesn't realize it, but you can see the flash going again and again, and you're like, oh, here it comes.
It's coming.
Here it comes. And the look on a new comedian's face when that music hits is soul destroying, man.
Yeah.
Poor bastards. Poor bastards. So then that was it. You just kind of got the bug and that was you into it.
Yeah. And then I remember like in the first year of living in Glasgow, it was also around about that time that met some of the guys from Chunks,
yeah.
and yeah, kind of joined that, like, you know, because that was its own thing, because like Chunks was like this night that some people had put together where the rule was there's no stand up, so it's just other forms of comedy,
Yeah.
and every bit has to be 3 minutes long, and you can do up to 3 bits in a night, and they'll be dotted out throughout the
Right.
night, and just seeing it and like being like, oh, this is fun, because this is
Yeah.
something a bit different as well, and
Encourages creativity as well. I've noticed that you do so many things, man. You're such a creative person that you just do all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I do stand up, and you're like, no, I do fucking clips, I do mashups, I do Christmas albums, I do sketches, and I'm like, honestly, I see the amount of stuff you do, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so lazy.
you're just focusing on doing one thing well.
Yeah, I'm just doing one thing half-assed. So I never actually got to see Chunks. So you just kind of like you just went up there with some like mad ideas every month, or
Yeah, and you'd have sort of like recurring characters and that, and like you'd get it's nights at that like that where it's like, I remember that was the very first time we saw like Amelia Baylor
Yeah.
try music, you know,
Yeah.
for the first time, and obviously that's her thing now.
Yeah.
And Ollie Coleman used to do like, you know, characters and bits and that, and yeah, and it was where like Richie Brown first did this character that he does the Foster's Comedy Robo Hack, where he's
Yeah.
got like the box on his head, and it's all just a comedian robot who's just doing like he pre-recorded stuff.
yeah. Is there any of the ones that you did that you're just thinking, I can't believe I fucking did that. I cannot believe I went on stage and did that.
Oh God! I mean, I'm trying to think. That I remember one time. I forget even what the context of it was, but there was one show that ended where like I had like duct taped like party poppers to my nipples, and so, like, it was.
This needs no context.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'd had to spend the entire show. I'd done other bits, like with the shirt on over, you know, like a sort of
The
pop
party
button
poppers
shirt.
under your shirt all night.
Yeah, just hoping that they stay on there, and then, you know, it's the end of the night, you know, like for like 2 seconds.
Did anyone notice you had party poppers under there?
Some folk were just like, there's a weird lump underneath,
Your
like Chris.
nipples are protruding a lot tonight.
It is not that cold.
So what? That was the bit you could have got up on stage and then just.
I'm trying to remember what, you know what it was. It was, so the year before, we had won the at the Scottish Comedy Awards. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. The best awards there ever was.
Yeah, I'm sure. What was it, like 2021, 2022? We all sent in our nominations,
Yeah, and then nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like one year we had won Best Night, which none of us were expecting. But I think it was just because like the volume of us voting for it that then put it in.
Yeah.
And we won it either once or twice in a row, and then one year we didn't win. And
you were
instead,
like,
it
bastards.
yeah, and it went to a magician instead.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, so it was. We were kind of. This was the first one post the awards. Like, now we didn't deserve it, you know. Like we'd already won 2. We swung the, but like, you know, it was just okay. This will be a fun thing to comment on, and so I think it was like a sort of temper tantrum of like oh, you won won a Scottish Comedy Award for like magic and burlesque, and like 2 things that are not comedy. Is this what you want? And so it's like ripping clothes off, doing magic, and like, you know, just like antagonizing the audience, like pick a card, you know.
Right.
But yeah, and I'm just like throwing a tantrum while like the other 2 guys are just like, listen, by the way, that's the show over. Like packing away chairs.
That's so good. good, man. I know the night in question you're talking about.
Nothing but love to them. But
I've never done that. I've never done that one. But yeah, it was always like magicians, burlesque, and then it's somehow a comedy night.
Yeah. But it's like WWE. It's like kayfabe. It's just like, we actually don't have any animosity, but you need to
on
pretend.
stage. Yeah, that's like, I mean, I hate magicians a little bit. I hate them more when I'm on stage. I was hosting a free-for-all on Monday night, Ross, you were there. And there was a guy, a really nice guy called Ian Kendall. He's a magician. And he was on, and I always like slag magicians. But he came up to me and went, Ralph, I'm needing to go. And I was like, oh, good, he's going to leave so I can slag off magicians. And he was like, right, see you later. And I was going back on, and I went, all right, everyone, welcome to the next part of the show. There's going to be 10 more comedians, and thankfully, no more fucking magicians. And everyone's like, yeah. And then I got up the next day and I had a tweet from Ian being like, oh, really enjoyed Monkey Barrel last night, but I don't think Ralph had realised I hadn't left the building yet. And I was like, oh, fuck.
The balls that it must take, because I think like when somebody says like, I'm thinking of starting stand-up comedy, I think I'm trying out stand-up comedy, there is a cringe element to it, there always is, but you'll get over it. Somebody was to say to you, you know what, I'm thinking of getting into magic. How do you broach that? Like you've seen a fully formed magician, and you're like, right, but
I think if you start as a 5-year-old, perfectly acceptable. If you start at 25, not acceptable. That's not cool. To be, I'm going to join the magic circle.
I had a really bad breakup.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm going to become a magician.
Oh my God.
I'll show her.
It must be a midlife crisis. I wonder if anyone's had a midlife crisis and they're like, fuck it, I'm going to get some little chains and we're going to get a box and we're going to get a rope that's going to tie it together. Oh God.
Doing it in private, hoping nobody finds the stash.
Yeah. Like everyone, all your friends are like, Michael's not doing well with a divorce. I got beaten by a magician. I travelled down to... Did you ever do the Gong Show in Stockton?
Oh my God, yeah.
Did you do it?
I did, yeah.
Oh. So for context, this is Stockton on Tees, which is way past Newcastle. It's maybe like a 3.5 hour drive from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
3.5 hour drive down there, and it's a huge big theatre. It's a very cool, like 300 seat theatre. It's a nice room. Professional host, you get a professional opener, but then after that it's like a gong show. It's literally just like you've got to get 5 minutes. And a magician went up first and was doing hack stuff. Like he was doing he was like, oh my God, this wallet's like my dad's, and he opened it and it like flames came out of it. To be like, oh, this isn't been used in ages, and like dust came out, and everyone was like, people in the audience like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was at the back of the room like, oh, I'm gonna eat shit if they love magicians. And sure enough, I did. 3.5 hour drive down to Stockton. And that is in a rough part of that little bit.
There's nothing else to do there.
No, God, no. And it's like a big, it's like almost like a shopping centre. Like one of those like kind of like retail parks where it's kind of got like restaurants on like every level. And then somehow in there's a theatre. It's putting on gong shows. But I mean, in terms of getting to do a room, it's 300 seats.
It's a good room.
It's a big room. But yeah, I picked on someone in the audience or something like that. I tried to crowd work, and the audience turned on me and booed me off 3 cards up right away. How was your experience of Stockton?
Oh, it was... so luckily, I mean, it just so happened that the next day, me and my wife had already planned we were going down to London to see Patton Oswalt anyway.
Cool.
So... it was kind of like, hey, to break up the journey, there's this thing, because it's a show with, if you get through, it's good price, it's good progression. So it's like the night before, we'll dip into Stockton and I'll do this gig. And it gets to the gig, and my wife's just like, I'm quite knackered from the travel. Do you mind if I stay in the hotel? And I'm just like, I'd rather you did. I don't want you to see me like this.
Oh my God.
And I did not make it through. I can only speak to the audience that were there that night, but other acts were getting gonged off just for saying that they were gay. Like,
Oh,
you know,
really?
yeah, like
Holy fuck.
it felt like there was an audience out for blood that night. Yeah. But I can only speak to that night there.
I mean, from what I've heard, I don't know if I've like they're voting off like gay people and everything, but they're out for blood. That one, that's a gong show where they're there for a bit of sadistic nature, and they're like, get them off.
Yeah.
And Scottish people instantly are on the back foot because they really kind of like hold a grudge if you're outside of the area.
Yeah.
So I was on the back foot, then slow start, and then I think I got to like 4:27 or something like that. So almost at the 5-minute mark.
Man.
And then basically I had to just watch from the side as a magician won.
Yeah.
And that is hard. I think that's maybe why I've got such a grudge against magicians.
That's fair.
That's my trauma. That's my origin story of being a comedian, is just getting beaten by a magician.
Yeah, it's like, we got nothing against you magicians. Just stay out of our turf, you know? It's like the lamest West Side Story kind of thing. You know? Like, we own this turf, you know? Like, this is our territory.
Oh, brilliant. Have you ever done any other gong shows? Or have you given them up now?
I've done other gong shows. I did the Comedy Store in Manchester back when that was open.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
That was really fun, and also done the other one in Manchester, Beat the Frog.
Nice.
Both times get through to the 5, but then like you're up against one other person who is in both times they were like local lads who you couldn't help but love. That you're just like, God damn it, like, you know, like they were just affable, and it's like, I can't complain. I've got through to the 5. They've clearly enjoyed me, but like if it's between me and this person,
they're picking the local. They're always picking the local.
And it's like really likable locals both times.
That's it. If you get beat by someone good, that's so much better to take.
Yeah.
That's a lot better. I've always wanted to do the one in London called King Gong at the Comedy Store in London. But that doesn't have a grace period. You don't even get like a minute to like for them to warm to you. You can walk on, have travelled down to London, and then get voted off instantly.
Yeah. That's got to be one, like, you'd better be down there anyway.
Yeah,
like, have some other reason to be there, and then,
You're not travelling for that, because if you did, and I think Ross Leslie did it. I think he went down for it. I think he did really well, but didn't get through.
Right.
Or didn't win it. I was like, man, that's a risky move. I want to do it, because it'd be amazing to play the Comedy Store, but imagine if you travel down and got voted off after like 5 seconds.
Yeah, because also, like, you know, objectively, on the other hand, it's very funny to gong off somebody who's traveled a long way.
Oh, it is. That's the part of my brain would go, get them off.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Right, man. There's a few other things you've done, man. You've done quite a lot of breaking the news as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's quite cool. So that's like for people that don't know, that's like a topical news show on, is it Radio Scotland?
Yeah.
And you get given a brief. How long is it before the actual show?
2 days before.
2 days before. So you get told, here's the topics we're going to cover. You've got to write jokes on all these topics. How do you find that, man? That seems like a tense timeline.
Like, it is, but it's fun. And I think I got it. Like, the first time I did it was like shortly after lockdown, and it was because during lockdown, like, I'd been on the sort of writers pool for. I'd been doing it like slightly before lockdown as well, but like, but you know, you just submit what you can. But during lockdown, I was able to do a lot more, and it was kind of that gave your week structure. You know, it was like, you know, for like, you know, on a Tuesday, you'd be like, right, I'm gonna put on my proper clothes and sit at my desk. I have work to do. I'm writing jokes. It gave you some semblance of structure and purpose during that point. And then shortly after, you know, the live shows came back, I got to do my first one. But fun thing is, they record that at the venue that they record most of the shows at is the event space of the bar that I was then working in. And the first time I did the show, recorded the show, and then immediately had to do a shift. And so folk who had been in the audience, like, you know, it was like a real, like, you know, just like high and then very humbling.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
like, what are you doing? Yeah, I work here. Like, what can I get you?
Shit. Did the show go well?
No, the show went well. Yeah, like I always had a really nice time there, you know, and it's I just it's fun, you know, having a brief to work around and like you know, because you know how sometimes when you're trying to work on material and you've just got a blank page, like I have no idea, but like somebody's giving you prompts and stuff like that, and it's maybe I don't normally do incredibly topical stuff, but this, you know, it's getting you doing topical material.
Yeah, it's like a new muscle to be working on that you just don't really get the chance to, unless you're people like Mark Nelson, who's like tweeting on like topical news stories every day, hitting the mark. Like that's a kind of good way of doing it.
Yeah.
So then when you kind of get up to like that, the brief, it's just kind of like, right, I know what I'm doing.
Aye. And I remember last October, November, whenever it was. I only remember because later on that night, we went to go see that last Halloween movie. So that puts the timestamp on it. But like it was, we went into recording. Before recording, we were all sat around, like me and the three other panelists, and we're just like, God, it's looking as though like any day now, Liz Truss might resign. Like Jesus. Anyway, the recording starts. And then, about half an hour into the recording, like Des, who hosts it, he's just like, "No, sorry. Oh, okay. All right. So we're scrapping the next round because news has just come in that Liz Truss has resigned."
No way.
Like, just. Oh, you feel the back sweat immediately.
Oh my God. You're like, tearing up the paper. Shit.
Yeah, and then like the pressure's really on of just like, because then it's just like, right here now, what do you think of this? And like, so folk just
You're trying
speaking from the heart.
cobble together an opinion and some punchlines.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the pressure of that, Chris. Did you manage to come up with it? Then?
I gave something. The fun thing about that show is with every question in every round, like everybody gets to deliver an answer.
Yeah.
And then it's what makes the cut. And I delivered a bit, but also on that week was Jennings, who, you know, is terrific at the political stuff, and just I think I just had naturally had like something that was just like, that's what's making the cut, that's what's making the edit.
Yeah. I would be like that as well. Well, that was shit. Let's get rid of that. Oh my God, for that to happen live when you're on air is
oh my God,
wild. I don't think I could be able to form anything funny at that point. I would just be like, good riddance or something. I would panic and just be like, bye here. Oh, that's cool, man. So how many times have you done that then?
I think is it 4? I think I've done it 4 times now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's always a fun time.
I think it's quite like an older audience, isn't it?
It is. But that's fun in itself as well. That you're trying to, you know, because I know that sometimes, you know, maybe I kind of worry that maybe sometimes like my stuff like skews a little too like millennial or whatever. So you know, if you can like find it's stretching other muscles, you know, finding stuff that can be a bit more universal, you know.
Yeah, I when I look out into an audience and I see a lot of grey hair, I know I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I know there's a high chance that I'm dying on my arse. Yeah. And it happened a few times during the Fringe at Vlad's show. Yeah. It happened at a golf course gig last year that I did for Ross Leslie. And I just, anytime I see loads of grey hair, I'm just like, and they are going to hate this. They are going to truly, truly hate what I'm about to say. And you know what? They do. Yeah. They absolutely do. But I would enjoy that as well. I would enjoy like trying to do that, and that's almost like prompted me now to just kind of like have bits that I can adapt to and I can put into like that can appeal to everyone. So I've started writing bits about like kind of like children, families, stuff like that, purely for that, because I know I can't go into these gigs and keep dying on my arse, go like, oh, I got accidentally stolen some cookies and everything like that. People are like, what the hell is he talking about? Because they really do not enjoy that.
Yeah. Just like they don't know a young man misbehaving.
Yeah. They're just like, what are you talking about, son? I love hearing people taking that challenge of like going to like a new audience, new skill and everything like that. You do loads of like like cool like online stuff as well, man. Hats off to you. Some of the content you putting out, man. It's excellent stuff, man. The what would you say is your kind of most iconic, famous thing? Because I think I know what I think it is, but
Is it the watching a film from 2004?
that one,
Yeah. So like during like, that was still in lockdown, but like I think towards the tail end of lockdown, that was like April of 2021. Like, I think like later, maybe that next month, I was like back at work. But yeah, like and yeah, that one was just like because again, you've got more free time. You're not doing gigs, and and I was just making a little sketch about when you just that universal feeling of like when you throw on an old film and it's not aged well, and deliberately didn't pick a real film, made up a film, just like sort of stereotypical teen comedy from like the early 2000s, with like Blink-182 in the soundtrack or something, and. I put it down to like part of the reason that it did so well, like such big numbers, is that a lot of folk enjoyed it, but a lot of folk also hated it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, and it sparked so much argument within the comments.
Yes,
and that I had to turn off notifications on my phone for a while because like all that arguing and like people debating amongst one another is then keeping it on the timeline, and so more folk are seeing it, but it's like folks saying, "Oh well, he's clearly talking about this film, and what? So this isn't okay anymore." And they're like, and
you're like, I kept this vague for a reason.
Yeah, and also like some folk, imagine being this much of a loser, and he's just like, no. Also, part of the sketch is that I am a fool in it as well. I think a certain type of like online sketch has sort of tainted people's minds of like there's a certain subculture of a sub brand of like online sketch where it's just like I'm the smart one, and here's like all the people I have to deal with in my work, and here's what I would say to them.
Oh my god, that is awful.
Like I'm the cool one, and I'm the smart one, and I've always got the right thing to. No, you want to be Tim Robinson. You want to be the schmuck in the sketch, But people don't understand that, and they think, oh, yeah, he thinks this is a
you think you're looking down on everything.
Yeah.
Like, it must be like quite, like you say, it got so bad you had to turn off notifications, man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Just because it's getting such big numbers, and folk are just having full-blown conversations that I'm not engaging with. Like, it's just like folk arguing with one another about the ending of Ace Ventura and things like that.
And did you read it with them?
At first, because like that first day, you're like, "Wow, this is doing numbers, yeah." But then after like a week, where oh yeah, like because also you see the waves happen of just like because it's like for the first maybe 6 hours or so, it's like folk who are enjoying it and sharing them amongst one another, and then later on you feel the tide turn, like where it's just like, okay, now it's gotten more to the right side of Twitter, or the the sort of edgelord side that are then disliking it and like sort of hate sharing it and whatnot, and then like 4 days later you're just like, okay, it's in France now because like all the quote tweets and the comments are in French, and like,
my God,
just
man.
when something like that, I'd never had something go that big before, and like just seeing it reach different demographics that way is like weird.
Yeah, it is the weird thing that like that the combative nature in the comments is the thing that makes most things go viral.
Yeah, so like you see now, like because folk are getting a bit more strategic with the crowd work or whatever that they put out as clips, and you're just like, oh, this is a hot take, or this is going to spark debate, and it's a savvy move.
Some people even just put like, I've heard that people even just maybe put like things like the title's just a little squint.
Oh yeah.
So that annoys people. A lot of the things, you're almost like just trying to do little things to like trigger people, so they'll just get like annoyed as soon as they start watching it. But that's not even in line. That font size is a different size, and people then just go, fuck this, which is mad to think that that's all their algorithms are built on just people hating each other.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah,
this is absolutely mental. So that was the kind of biggest one, and then there's been a lot. Do you like see like when famous people are like tweeting things and retweeting your stuff?
Yeah, you do catch it like from time to time. It's a little more difficult to catch now that blue tick means a completely different thing. You
Yeah.
know, like for a while it was just like, oh, okay, oh wow, like these guys. But whereas now, if it does happen, it doesn't happen as much anymore. Like where you get like big numbers on a thing. But yeah, like if it does happen, somebody might get like lost in the.
It's annoying because you want to see that.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Like when it's somebody who like whose stuff you've really enjoyed, like like is liking it or sharing it, and you're just like, oh my god.
So I think I've seen Nick Offerman as like.
That was I think one of the first like big times that happened, because like it was like this tweet that I'd done like like about this old TV guide cover, like where it's.
I will put this up on the YouTube version, and I'll put a link in the description for the audio so you can see this. It's so good.
But yeah, that was another one during lockdown. I think that was, but yeah, tweeted it, and then I think I think the person I could probably credit with it going big was Caitlin Moran. Whose stuff I don't really follow, but like just like you would then see like she shared it, and then all of a sudden the buzzes on your phone are becoming a lot quicker, and then it's later on that day like Nick Offerman's like sharing it and stuff, and
that's very cool, man. That is so cool. Like put something out there. And see, before you're putting that out, before you put that one out, were you thinking like this is gonna help? Because it's such a it's an original thing. It's such an original take on that mad picture of Elliot Gould and Grover. But you just wouldn't think, no one would think to have done that before. So you knew doing that, you're going, yeah, I think this is gonna be good. Or
no. like because everything you hope does, but like but you never know what's going to be the one that's like going to go big for some reason, and like
so you're putting your phone down, and then later on you're like, oh my god, Nick Offerman. Who else was? I'm sure there was like quite a few famous people who were into that one.
I oh god, I'm trying to think like who did that one. I was like, I remember in the first day, it was like Caitlin Moran, and it was like your guy Duncan Jones, like David Bowie's son, who's like the film director. He did like Moon.
The one with Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that film.
Brilliant film.
Like Ben Schwartz, your other guy from Parks and Rec. Like,
cool. Is that the Middleditch and Swatch guy?
Yeah, him. Like the John Raffio from that show.
Yes.
And I'm sure somebody else from Parks and Rec had like shared it as well. Your guy Billy Eichner as well. Like
Billy on the Street.
Yeah. Like
no way.
Yeah.
Man.
So those three from Parks and Rec, they like shared it and stuff. But
Billy on the Street, man. I didn't know that one. I hadn't seen that. That's fucking wild. He's like big.
Yeah. And then David Cross as well, which is cool because like David Cross is like one of those guys. We go back to like getting pure early into. I remember I first heard David Cross. I was an Arrested Development fan, but I remember when I first heard his stand up, it was in a bonus disc that you got in this punk compilation called Rock Against Bush Volume 1.
Right.
It was like a compilation album during George Bush's presidency. The front cover is like this stereo, like playing music real loud, and Bush like,
Right.
But one disc was just music, but then another disc you could pop in as a CD-ROM or something, and part of that you had some of David Cross's stand up in there.
He is hilarious. He was Tobias in Arrested Development, which is honestly the first three series of that is untouchable in terms of like comedy shows. That is up there with one of the best that's ever been made.
I remember I had them on DVD, and they would never be in my possession because I was always lending them to people in my school because I was like, trust me with this show, you will like it, and because that was the only way you could really do it back then, because episodes would be online, but they would get like taken down and stuff,
but in terms of like writing all the stuff in Arrested Development, is it the first three series that are the best ones, and then it kind of went a bit off?
Yeah, the first three seasons were on Fox, and then there was a long hiatus, and then it came back as a sort of Netflix original.
That was it.
It was like one of the first Netflix originals. I think it's why I got Netflix.
I think it might have been as well because they couldn't. I'm sure I remember they couldn't all film it together. So normally they would all be in the room, and there was but they were having to do it like when they weren't all together and everything like that, and it just ruined it. But the first three series of that are probably totally could not recommend that for anyone that's not seen Arrested Development.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be on. I think it's probably still on Netflix. It's incredible.
Well, that's a weird thing now. It's not on Netflix
it not?
anymore. Not even the Netflix season.
What the fuck?
So it was a Fox show, and so the
right.
rights reverted to Disney. So now the first 3 seasons are on Disney Plus. The 4th and 5th season are just
Good.
out in the ether.
Good.
Like, I mean, it's they're not great seasons, but like, yeah, it's just like, it's kind of wild that they are now just gone, disappeared. Like, you can't get them on DVD or anything.
It's for the best. For the best.
But there's that fun tension, like with the first 3, that you don't really get much anymore, where it's like, because it was a really good show that was on network television and struggling for ratings. Nobody was watching it, and the channel was fucking it over, and it was that kind of combative energy that had. Whereas like Netflix being like, yeah, do whatever you want, but everybody's too busy to be in the same room together.
Yeah, that's annoying. That's annoying. So you get David Cross just liking your content, man. That's so cool. Have you kind of like, do you ever like sit on ideas and be like, oh, I'm just not sure about that one. I'm just not. Or do you have like a thing? I'm putting this out no matter what.
Yeah, I remember there are sometimes when you're gonna like tweet something or something like that, and there's a little part of you that's just like, you might be on the job search again at some point. Like, not that I say anything like offensive or anything, but just like, like just occasionally when you're tweeting a little too loose, and you're just like, you ever have this thing where you come and you're like, that you're like, oh yeah, folk are watching, or yeah, like as soon as folk you do admire start following you, and then you're like, do you want them to see this?
Yes, I've thought that as well. There's been a few people that have followed me, and I go to like put out like some like anything I do, like any kind of story, I'll be like, or even a post or a clip, and I'll be like, oh my god, they're gonna fucking see this. I'm like, this is like, they'll see it and be like, what is he doing?
Yeah,
you just automatically think that they will hate it.
Yeah,
you don't think, oh, they might like it.
Yeah. Because like, there's a little part of you that's still in like that first year of you having Twitter or whatever, where you're just like, oh yeah, it's just me and my friends talking.
Yeah. And then suddenly there's a few blue ticks following you, and you're like, oh, this needs to be good. This needs to be good. Oh my god,
I want you to like me.
Brilliant, man. I've started asking a few other guests this about like the best gig and the worst gig. I try and just like to get like opposite ends of the spectrum of like what they've like the favorite thing they've done in stand up, and then the one that's just kind of gone, oh Christ, I hope that never happens again.
God. All right. So best gig. I remember like back a few years back, me and my now wife, we traveled down to Australia because we traveled down like with her mom and dad.
Nice.
Her brother and his wife and kids live out there. And I knew at the end of this trip, I was going to pop the question. So that's in the back of my head the entire time. But also while I was down there, got booked to do a few spots at the Little Creatures Brewery. But one of them was the very first night we get there.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and so the night before we had like flown in, arrived around about 2 a.m. We get picked up like by her brother, like, and we get in and we think, oh, I'm just gonna go straight to bed, but her brother's got like a keg in the kitchen. And he's just like, all right, so what are we having? And we wind up staying up until like 4 a.m. So already tired, jet lagged and everything. But then booked for this gig the next day. So we all go, it's a sort of place, big brewery, but with like, a restaurant and a venue and everything. And so we have dinner. He's also invited people that he works with and stuff like that, And so it is kind of high pressure of just like, oh wow, I've traveled all this way down here, like,
you're jet lagged.
Yeah. And meeting this side of the family for the first time. Hope it goes well. Wound up being a really nice crowd.
Oh, thank God, Chris. Thank God.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's probably not like the most I've ever smashed it, but it's one of the nicest feelings it's ever been, because it's like,
there's a lot riding on that.
Yeah, because you know how when like somebody important to you comes to a gig,
yes,
and like it might not be the biggest gig or whatever. And there's a part of you that's just like, no, I do this. Like I am competent at this. You know, like so that was just a very nice feeling. Just like, you know, within 24 hours, you've gotten to know this whole side of the family that, you know, fingers crossed, you know, like by the end of this trip are going to be family. And
oh my God, man.
Yeah, and
so you're sitting on that like you've got party poppers under your shirt.
yeah.
You got the ring in the pocket and you're like, this is coming out soon.
Always got them there just in case the gig goes south. Just like, all right, pulling out all stops.
If you ended this episode just say that, that's having me.
The worst days are when you never pop them and you just sadly peel off the tape at the end of the day.
Oh my God. That's so funny, man. That's a lot of pressure for a gig.
Yeah. But it was just like a weekend spot, but like it was very nice. I think that's one of the first ones that pops to my head, I'd say.
Very unique as well. That's a kind of, not many people have done that gig.
Yeah. It was my first time gigging abroad as well. I mean, like I say abroad, you know, it's Australia, but it's still English speaking country. But worst, and again, this probably is not the worst, because I think you could probably agree, like, worst gig's probably just one of those ones where, like, you know, it's not even terrible enough to get a story out of. You know, it's just, it's bad, you go, you do it gets nothing, you feel nothing, and then you just go home and you're like, I will have forgotten about this in about a week's time or something like that.
You have to become numb to them. You really do have to become numb to them, because they can happen a couple of times a year and you're like, oh well, here we are again.
Yeah. I'd say, like, when folk ask for worst, it's probably this was like in my first like year, because I remember it was a gig that was what I call ambush gigs. You know, like you know how a gig that's like, it's in a space, it's in a pub where it's not even in a separate room. It's just in the pub that people are there to drink. They're not there for the comedy. They're just. And this one was a Friday night in a pub in Kilmarnock. So it's the pub. You know, like that. You know, folk are just there to enjoy their night. They don't think comedy is happening. And this was in October, so around about Halloween. So the promoter had happened to call the gig The Laughing Dead. I'm on now. It's a stacked lineup, including some people who have gone on to be big. You know, like started around about the same time as us and are doing really well at the moment. But nobody has a good time. Like, you know, like the animosity from the audience is so palpable. Because, you know, just like,
and any animosity from an audience is just such a bad start to
and with an ambush gig, it's like you don't have a leg to stand on. You're like, entirely fair. Like, we are here ruining your good time. If it's like, if it's a gig, if it's a proper gig, you know, you could be like, hey, just leave then. Get out. Like, you know, don't be.
But you're on their turf. Interrupting their night.
So all you could, so some people, you know, some people just like did like a minute and you'd be like, listen, I'm out. Some people got angry with the audience themselves.
Which is mad.
I had that sort of first year kind of, you know how when a gig is going badly, but you only have one mode, you know, you're just like, I'm going to stand here and deliver the material, like completely unaware of my surroundings. I'm aware of my surroundings, but I don't have the ability to modulate yet.
You're not going off piece. You're not reacting to anything in the room. It's like, this 10 minutes is happening. Nothing else.
When, you know, like with hindsight, you know, now you know that like the better move is to be like, well, this is weird, guys, you know, like, or like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, you know, just something, anything. But I said the gig was called The Laughing Dead. The front row, all in black suits, because they had just buried their friend, and this was where they had chosen to have their drinks after.
Oh my God. Oh fuck.
You're just like, this is happening, guys. I'm sorry.
So they sat in the front row of the comedy show.
Yeah, because they didn't know it was the front row.
Oh, to have that called that night as well. That
Yeah.
is so bad.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing do you remember who was closing that? Because normally you kind of get those nights and someone like closes it and it goes, what the fuck is going on here? And
You know what? Yeah, actually, the only person I will name in this anecdote, because they actually had a very good Graham Mackey. He just comes in and he's just like, he manages to just like, many folk have filtered out by this point because
Right.
like they are like, we'll find somewhere else where comedy isn't happening.
Yeah.
But he has won over the folk who are there because he's Graham Mackey.
Yeah.
He is just, he's magic.
yeah, it's so weird that some people just do have the ability. I've seen it happen and everyone else dies and the headliner goes up and goes, has the gig of their life. And you're like, how does that happen? How do we make this happen? I wish I could have done that fucking Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Right, well, thanks very much for coming in, Chris. This has been great. There's two last things before you go. Suggesting a guest for a future podcast episode. Someone you think is funny. I'll try and get them on the podcast.
Ooh, have you had Ruth Hunter on yet?
I've not had her on yet, no.
She's fantastic.
Perfect.
Big fan of Ruth.
Excellent, Ruth Hunter, love it. And I know you'll definitely have some recommendations for like film, TV shows, albums you've listened to recently or watched recently that you think more people should hear or watch. Any good films?
Well, okay, so as of recording tomorrow, the new Exorcist movie is coming out, and yesterday the reviews came out for it, and it is apparently dog shit.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a new Exorcist.
Yeah. So it's David Gordon Green, your guy who, by the way, made Pineapple Express. Great film.
Excellent.
Has made some very good films, but he also made those last 3 Halloween films that were like, hey, you know how all those sequels you grew up with? Fuck them. They didn't happen.
Right.
Ignore them. These ones are the true ones. And they were fine.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the disrespect I don't like. Do an average Halloween film, but like have some respect for the others.
Some continuity here, please.
Yeah. And this is him doing the same with The Exorcist. And yeah, it's just getting terrible reviews. Most of the Exorcist sequels are bad, but the third one, which came out in 1990. So the original Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin, written by William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original novel. The Exorcist 3 is written and directed by William Peter Blatty, and it is fantastic.
Oh, really?
People didn't enjoy it at the time because it's not an obvious take on a sequel. It's doing something different, interesting, and it's fantastic. It's
Exorcist 3.
Yes,
Brilliant.
That it's underrated. Check out Exorcist 3.
I'll tell you what, this is a man who knows his films. So if you're into your films, go and watch that film right now. Brilliant. Excellent. Chris, thank you so much for coming in, man. This has been a lot of fun. Cheers for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me. This is flowing in.
Bro, man. Cheers. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.